Welcome to Call Frost First, Illinois Injury Law.
Welcome back to Call Frost First, Illinois Injury Law with Kevin J. Frost. Kevin is the managing partner of Clark Frost Zucchi and a trial attorney representing injured individuals and families across Northern Illinois. He has obtained multi-million-dollar results in cases involving trucking accidents, wrongful death, medical negligence, and workplace injuries. I'm Leanne Lyon, and today we are talking about how to choose the right injury law firm in Illinois and how to avoid problems that can arise with aggressive solicitation. Hello, Kevin.
Hi, how you doing today?
Excellent. Kevin, after a serious accident, people are sometimes contacted very quickly by lawyers or law firms. What should someone understand about how that contact happens?
Well, a lot of times people these days, unfortunately, are getting contacted on their cell phones, on their landlines, via text, via email, by people that are either acting as if they're an investigator or working with a law firm, and they're really using those communications right off the bat to kind of unscrupulously contact somebody that's been injured in a car accident or any type of injury, but mainly car accidents because they get them from the police reports. And those are called leads. And sometimes, like I said, sometimes they're law firms, sometimes they're third parties. It could be a call center in India. But you have to remember, here in Illinois, all of that is really prohibited and frowned upon. I would strongly suggest that if anyone is contacted this way, that they disengage and do not communicate with someone like that, and actually, do your homework and try to find a reputable and legitimate law firm to represent you.
As you just mentioned, Illinois has specific rules about attorney advertising and solicitation. So, what separates ethical outreach from conduct that really should raise concern?
Well, under the rules, the only really ethical outreach is if someone were to send via mail or email some literature, and it has to have the term advertising material on that. Any other way, really, of contacting someone directly from a law firm or an entity purporting to be a law firm is really, it truly is unethical and not allowed. Does that stop people from doing it? No. My daughter was involved in a motor vehicle accident in the city of Chicago, where it was just property damage. And within moments of leaving the police station, her phone began to ring. It's unbelievable how quickly people are getting access to information, basically through police reports, because that's the only way really in that case it could be found. But it was unbelievable, the number of texts and calls she got on her cell phone, and she wasn't even injured. But still, someone's buying these leads, selling this information, and truly, it is unethical, and it should not be tolerated.
So, beyond advertising, what are the practical signs that a law firm is equipped to handle a serious injury case?
Sure, I think the experience of a law firm, the experience of the lawyers at that law firm, their success rate. Have they done cases like this before? And are they good at it? And in this day and age, where you're now seeing national, billboard firms advertise around the nation, you really need to find out that whether or not that they've been successful in your local market, right? Just because someone was good in Arizona and had a successful case resolved, or several cases in Arizona, doesn't mean they're going to be good in Rockford, Illinois. So it's really, really important to do your research on, like I said, what type of firm is going to be able to handle your type of case.
So, what I hear you saying is that buy local applies in the legal world as well.
It does 100%. It really matters more now than ever because people, I think, are duped. If you go do a Google search for a lawyer in Rockford, Illinois, those sponsored ones at the top, there may be 6 of them that pop up, and 4 of them could be located out of state. They're not even in the state, right? But someone's putting enough aggressive money into marketing and advertising. And again, unfortunately, I know about this because it's my business, but a lot of consumers, a lot of injured people don't know. So I think it is so important to quote unquote, buy local and have a local attorney because we know the market that we're in, right? It'd be like me trying to be a lawyer in Arizona. It just wouldn't
Right.
make sense.
Well, some firms are structured to settle a high volume of cases, while others prepare every case as if it may go to trial. How does that difference affect the outcome of a claim?
Well, it does. It affects the outcome because, again, you may have some large law firms, large billboard firms, large marketing firms um, that do one of two things. One is they may handle the case themselves and want a quick return, and to turn that case as quickly as they can, or they frankly may be brokering your case out to another lawyer that you have no contact with. And so both of those scenarios aren't good for you unless you have a minor injury, right? So if you went to the ER one time or your doctor one time, and you have the benefit of being healed up, right? You're not that hurt, right? Your injury, your knee pain went away after 3 days. Well, then your case can be turned quickly, right? You can get a quicker result. But frankly, you don't even need that lawyer, right? You can do that on your own. But if you have an injury that's serious or significant, where you have to see the doctor or go see a specialist or go to physical therapy or have surgery, your case can't settle quickly, right? Those things take time, and I would be not doing a good job for you if I tried to quickly settle your case. You've got to be healed to the point of your maximum medical improvement, right? You have to be back as good as you're going to be before I even want to think about settling your case, because I don't have that information. So a firm that's high volume, that's quick settling, really isn't really doing you any favors, because you may have a case. Let's pick a number. Let's say it's worth 100, right? And if it's turned quickly, maybe they settle for 60. Well, that's not doing you any good, right? You're losing out on really what your case is worth by going to someone that's a high volume, low dollar firm. Again, like I said, the caveat would be if you really aren't that injured, then maybe that would work for you. But the people we represent aren't people that went to the doctor one time and are healed up.
So how important then is it for an injury lawyer to be familiar with the local courts, the local judges, and the defense attorneys in Northern Illinois?
Those are all very important factors. I have to know my local market. I have to know the court system, the judges that I'm going to be in front of here. I have to know who the defense attorneys are and had experience with them in the past. For the last 25 years, I've had cases against certain defense attorneys, right? I know them. I know where they're going to go. I know what their argument's going to be. So those are very important factors. And the other thing about the locality is you have to know your market, right? So here in Rockford, we're in Winnebago County, but next door we have Boone County and we have Stevenson County. So, I know what these towns are like. I know the area. I know the roads. I know the specifics. I know the physicians in these markets and the medical establishments we have. So having that knowledge is so important to resolving one's case, because I'm going to know if a particular doctor is someone that's more conservative or more likely to be aggressive. I'm going to know if a particular doctor maybe is more pro plaintiff or pro defense. So those are such important factors to know. And then let's face it, if your case has to go full tilt and we have to go to jury trial, I have to know the demographics of the jurors, right? I have to know what town they're from, what that town's like. Is it more of an agricultural town? Is it more of like a liberal town? All those things that play such an important role in getting you value for your case, especially once we're in the courthouse.
Well, you mentioned medical, and I know injury cases often involve extensive medical records and even expert testimony and investigation. So, what should somebody look for in terms of a firm's resources and case preparation in these cases?
Well, sure. Sometimes I'll get a case and I'll get 2,000 pages of medical records, right? And it has to be filtered. And we, as a rule, don't hand that off to a paralegal and say, "Give me a summary." I got to go through the records. Right? I have to figure out what happened to you and what the doctors and what the team of medical staff said about you. And I'm not going to get that by feeding it into some AI program and getting a fancy report, right? I'm going to only get it by reading it myself, because others may miss things. And that's what we as lawyers here do. So we have that expertise and knowledge to know what to look for with respect to medical records. Same thing with getting, if your case needs an expert witness. So we have used expert witnesses from around the nation. It's my job to get on the phone or to meet with an expert and think are they good for your case? Will they do a good job in preparing a report or testifying? And that's something that we spend a lot of time on, right? Again, it's not something you just click online and grab the first one you see. I had a trucking case, and I probably talked to 6 or 7 experts before I found the one person that just clicked, and I thought understood what I was describing, what I was telling him, and he could articulate back, what he thought and gave me his opinions. And I'm like, this is the guy I want, right? And that takes time, and that takes resources, and you have to pick a firm that has the time, that has the resources to put forth for your case.
For better or worse, I can relate. And that time that I took to really talk to many different people definitely paid off for me in the end. So if a case begins with one firm, though, and then you decide it's not the right fit, and then it evolves into co-counsel or referral arrangements, what should someone clarify before signing a representation agreement?
Sure, and this kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. Some of these large firms now are brokering your cases, right? So it may not look like a co-counsel or referral agreement, just someone else is doing the work on your behalf. And if you figure that out, that's a red flag, right? If like for instance on referrals, I have many lawyers in our community that still are more general practice lawyers, or they're real estate lawyers, or they're criminal defense attorneys, or they're bankruptcy lawyers who refer personal injury cases or workers' comp cases to our firm, right? So it's outside of their area of what they normally do, and they're doing they're doing it on behalf of a client normally that they know or they've worked with in the past. So they're calling me or our firm and saying, would you be willing to talk to this person? I have someone coming in tomorrow. A lawyer is bringing a gentleman tomorrow that was in a bicycle accident. So those are how cases sometimes get to us. And in that arrangement, it's important to know that that the referring lawyer is just that. He's a referring lawyer. He's not truly my co-counsel. He's referring the case into me. He has some of the same legal and ethical responsibilities that I do, and I will keep them if they want to be up to date and give them status reports. But really, then I'm truly working 100% for the client that lawyer has brought to my office, right? That is my client. In the end, the referring lawyer can share in the fee here in Illinois, and we do that often, right? So that's a normal procedure, how it works as far as referring into our firm. So we get cases all the time from other lawyers who are referring a case to us because they don't have the specialty or expertise in our areas. There are times when I've been involved in for instance, some medical device litigation, right? It's happening outside of my area here, but I have a client here in our community that's been affected and has a defective product, right? So then that's when I would team up with another law firm that's specializing in medical device litigation or that particular product and work with them. Again, I am now referring that client on. The responsibilities will be discussed between ourselves and that other firm and the client upfront. If someone's not telling you upfront how the arrangement is going to work, that's another red flag. People say like, well, Kevin, will you still be involved in the case? I was like, sure, I'm still your local guy. You can come in here. We can review documents. If you need to drop something off or we need to get your medical records, we can help do all that. And then, eventually when the case is settled on a either through like multi-district litigation or even the class action, it'll happen somewhere else, but I'm still involved with that law firm myself.
I appreciate the clarity you brought to that. That's a really important fact. Can you share an example where the choice of representation had a clear impact on how a case was handled?
Sure. We've had several cases where someone has gone with a high marketing, high internet sponsored firm and started out there and then realized that some way or another that they're either not getting the representation they think that they deserve, or things just aren't going well, or there's some drop in communication, and eventually they decide to terminate that relationship with that firm and come to us. Well, we once had a case where the firm had told the person, you need to settle the case. This is the policy limits, and this is all you're going to get. And lo and behold, they came to us before they signed the release. The person had UIM coverage. They had underinsured motorist coverage on their own. The first firm just hadn't put the carrier on notice of that or hadn't done the diligence on that. So instead of someone getting axed for their case and walking away with a low axe, we were able then to take the case to properly go through the proper steps to open up an underinsured motorist claim for that person and double the result. And had they signed that release, they would have been stuck. So, that's an example, I think, of, where it's so important to really do your homework in hiring an attorney, right? Like, it's so easy these days, just like anything else, to go to Google or now, chat GBT and put in a few search terms and have a list pop up. And it's so neat and tidy, and pick one of those. And I think, people are, people probably spend more time at the grocery store deciding on, what kind of mustard to get than they do sometimes getting a lawyer. And for most people, this is, hopefully you're never going to have another case, right? I'll never forget a federal judge one time had me in chambers and we were in a settlement conference. And he said, Kevin, when you go back to your office, you're going to pick up another file. You're going to work on behalf of another client. But that person out there, your client, this is her only case, right? This is it for her. We need to make sure that she understands that, before any decisions are made on settlement. And it's so true, right? Like for most people, this is going to be, it's not a fun process to go through, right? You were in some sort of traumatic accident, and then you were badly injured. It's affected your life. It's affected your job. It's affected your relationship with your spouse, with your children. It's dynamic and not in a good way, but it can be daunting. And so, we're here to help you get through that process. And in the end, make sure that you're adequately and properly compensated for that. So it's so important to spend the time in really looking and researching the lawyer you hire, because it does make a difference, right? The experience matters. Your success matters. How well you've done in your particular community. Those are all things that matter.
So, as we wrap up today, before signing with an injury lawyer, what specific question or questions should somebody ask to understand how their case will actually be managed?
It's very important to ask how your case is going to be managed. The lawyer you're meeting with, hopefully you're meeting with a lawyer, not a paralegal from the beginning. But are you going to be the lawyer that's going to handle my case, or is my case going to get passed on to somebody else when it takes a turn? Right? Are you going to try to refer my case out? What is your responsibility with this file, right? With my case? Those are all things that are so important, knowing who is going to handle your case. It's also important to know about the team at the law firm, right? On an administrative side and the support side, who are you, when you call into the law firm, who are you going to talk to? And then if you have a question for the lawyer, is the lawyer going to talk to you, right? I keep all my phone logs, because I return each and every call that I get that someone wants to speak to me. I call them back, and that's not always the way it goes, right? Some of these, especially these younger lawyers, they don't want to talk on the phone at all, and they think they're going to send an email. Well, when a client calls me, there's a reason they're calling me, because they didn't email. If a client emails me, I'll email them back. So I think it's so important to know the level of communication between the team and the lawyer itself. I think the expectations are, how long is this going to take? When's the next time we're going to speak? What do I need to do next? When I'm retained by someone coming in my office, I give them information when they leave, and I normally give them homework, right? Like, these are things I need you to do, right? Like, these are things to progress further that I need from you. If they forgot to bring a document, like, okay, I'm going to need that from you. And so I think you have to have a two-way street. But you also have to, I think, as a lawyer, you have to be readily available. When people hire and they're working with me, when they want to talk to me sometimes, right? And it's so important that I continue that dialogue with my clients while I'm working on their case.
That is excellent. Thank you for sharing all of that. To our audience, choosing the right representation is one of the most important decisions someone makes after an injury. If you've been injured in Northern Illinois and need clear, experienced guidance, you can contact Clark Frost Zucke for a free consultation at clarkfrost.com. Thank you for listening to Call Frost First Illinois Injury Law. And if you found this episode helpful, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who may benefit from it. Thank you today, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.